Despite defining an entire genre that now includes everything from Castlevania to a cornucopia of indie titles, the Metroid series itself is remarkably varied. Of course, there are the games for which the genre is named, but there are also first-person adventure games, a competitive online shooter, a co-op class-based mech shooter, a story-driven third-person action game, and, a pinball game. So, with the name Metroid representing a huge pool of experiences, we asked our Patreons to team up with us once again, so that we could determine which Metroid game is the best. Now, as a quick disclaimer, we did vote on these before Metroid Prime Federation Force had been publicly released, so while a few of us had already played through it and knew that it was fantastic, please don't hold it against everyone else for not awarding it the #1 spot. I'm John Rairdon, you're watching NWR TV, and these are the top 5 Metroid games of all time. Number 5. Metroid Prime 3 Corruption. Shooting its way into the first slot on our list, Metroid Prime 3 is arguably the most epic entry in the entire series when it comes to sheer scale. This sprawling adventure spans multiple planets along with Galactic Federation fleets, derelict wrecks, and dangerous space pirate bases. All of this serves to punctuate the story, as Corruption serves as the final of the 3 mainline Prime games. Unlike previous games in the Prime series, which focused on a feeling of isolation, Corruption gave clear indication that the fate of everyone in the galaxy was dependent on your actions. Story was more prevalent than it had ever been before, with full spoken dialogue and impressive cutscenes throughout. This was also the first Prime game to be released on the Wii and implemented a new control setup. This new motion control-based interface allowed players much greater freedom of movement, and for the first time Samus felt as agile in 3D as she had in 2D. Samus gained a significant overall boost in speed, which allowed Retro Studios to implement many elements of more traditional FPS games into their first-person adventure series, and the gameplay benefited from this diversity of experiences. Despite providing a satisfying conclusion to the story of Phazon, fans of the Prime series continue to anxiously await a 4th entry in the mainline series. Metroid Prime 3 gave us everything we asked for, and still managed to leave us wanting even more. Number 4. Metroid Fusion. The second portable entry in the series' history and the first on GBA, Metroid Fusion brought the very best that 2D Metroid had to offer into the palm of your hand. Following the long 8-year silence after the release of Super Metroid, Metroid Fusion and Metroid Prime launched onto the scene with a bevy of new experiences for patient fans. Metroid Fusion served as a direct follow-up to Super Metroid and was officially dubbed as Metroid 4. It took on an even darker feel than its predecessor and employed tropes that today would be regularly associated with horror games. In Metroid Fusion, Samus encounters the X-Parasite, which infects her suit, altering her appearance. Meanwhile, high above the planet SR-388, a BSL station is also infected by the X-Parasite. In her quest to eradicate this new threat to galactic peace, Samus will have to face the ghosts of her past as the X infects samples taken from SR-388, resurrecting distorted visages of Samus's old foe, the space pirates. While much of the core design was heavily inspired by Super Metroid, steps were taken to make Fusion a somewhat more guided experience. Your computer, who Samus names Adam after Adam Malkovich, her old commanding officer,
Any objections, lady?
guides Samus from one story point to the next. This doesn't remove exploration from the game, but it offers the player a more focused experience that is more conducive to portable gaming. Despite several entries having been released since, Metroid Fusion remains chronologically the final entry in the Metroid series. Number 3. Super Metroid.
The last Metroid is in captivity. The galaxy is at peace.
Super Metroid is a benchmark in the history of gaming. The fact that it only made it to 3rd on this list is a testament to the incredible quality of the Metroid series as a whole. Super Metroid took the rough outline of a brand new style of adventure game that had been initially outlined by Metroid and Metroid 2, and refined it into a remarkable gaming experience. Super Metroid creates unparalleled atmosphere that still holds up surprisingly well. The game returns Samus to Zebes, the site of the original Metroid, as she chases Ridley, who has escaped with the very last Metroid. Following the now ubiquitous escape from the place cause it's gonna blow up scene, you'll find yourself in an all too familiar and all too blue cave. At this point, instinct takes over as you go right to where you already know the morph ball can be found. Returning to a location like this just wasn't really something that had been seen all that often back in 1994. Seeing those dark tunnels pop in 16-bit was akin to seeing an HD remake of a classic game today. The world of Metroid you thought you knew came to life in incredible new ways in Super Metroid. Rich art design flowed through every room as your eyes were treated to beautiful yet somehow disturbing Geiger-inspired pixel art. Vibrant creatures came to life before you in ways the original NES had never been capable of. Secrets were hidden everywhere, along with traps. Super Metroid presented us with not just a game to complete, but a world to explore. Super Metroid was the moment when Metroid went from being an interesting experiment in game design to a genre all its own, and changed the face of gaming forever. Number 2. Metroid Prime. Like Super Mario 64 and Ocarina of Time before it, Metroid Prime sought to bring the Metroid genre into 3D. Now, one would expect that Nintendo would put their best people on the first 3D Metroid. Surely, a dream team of Nintendo developers would need to be assembled to pull this off. Or we could hand it to those guys in Texas. Given Retro's now stellar lineup of hit games, it's funny to think of a time when we would have absolutely no confidence in them, but back in 2002, that was exactly how we felt. Somehow, Retro not only turned in a great 3D Metroid game, but delivered a game that has ever since been praised as one of the finest games in history. Metroid Prime is a masterpiece. It combines the upgrade-based exploration, allowing players to access new areas as they gain abilities, with nods to the FPS genre, as well as early first-person point-and-click adventures such as Myst. Metroid Prime carries with it a powerful feeling of loneliness as Samus explores the home of a long-past civilization. Cinematics are kept to a minimum, and the story is instead told to a level of complexity that is entirely based on the player's interest. The invention of the scan visor allows Samus to inspect various elements of the environment. While some of this information is helpful for solving puzzles, most simply serves to build the elaborate world in which Metroid Prime takes place. Much of this is done through lore. Whether the writing of ancient Chozo or the logs of space pirate scientists, Metroid Prime tells its story through the words of those who came before Samus. You could play the entire game without ever digging into what is actually going on, or you could spend hours poring over logs in the rubble of crashed spaceships and digging into the history of the Chozo. All of this serves to tell a story that could truly only be told in a video game, with the player deciding what's important and what isn't. We've seen Metroid Prime emulated since and elaborated on in its sequels. Its gameplay has been improved to make Samus move better and help the series play better, but nowhere else has a story been crafted with such precision as it was in Metroid Prime. So after all of that, how is neither Super Metroid or Metroid Prime number 1 on this list? One set the standard for an entire genre of 2D adventure games, and the other refined that genre in 3D and set a new benchmark for storytelling in games. What's left? Well, there is still one Metroid game that, more so than any other, succinctly and definitively defines the core values of a Metroid game. Number 1. Metroid Zero Mission. Zero Mission plays like a dissertation on what it is to be a Metroid game. I think our own Dr. Metz said it best in his review from back in 2004 when he stated that this isn't just Metroid, this is the Metroid. At a glance, Metroid Zero Mission is an enhanced remake of the very first Metroid game, but to limit the experience to this narrow description would be doing it a huge disservice. In reality, the classic Metroid on NES merely serves as a jumping-off point for Zero Mission. Following the release of Metroid Fusion, director Yoshio Sakamoto wanted to reintroduce the new fans garnered from Fusion and Prime to the origins of the series. Rather than developing a straight port of the original Metroid, the team decided to bring the game up to the standards of modern Metroid titles. Thus, what would start as a seemingly simple update spiraled into the development of an entirely new game that would share only some base inspiration with its source material. To start, the world of Zebes is vastly expanded to a size on par with Super Metroid. Key geographical points remain largely unaltered in their layout, but these areas are supplemented by rooms upon rooms of new content. The genre-defining upgrades of Super Metroid are all here, but so are the platforming enhancements of Metroid Fusion, along with a variety of entirely new abilities that I won't dig too deep into, just in case you haven't already played the game. On top of that, Samus moves like the superhero we've always thought of her as. Right from the beginning of the game, before you've picked up a single upgrade, Samus's quick, responsive movement make that core act of exploration fun and exciting. Underneath all of that, there still remains the classic adventure carried over from the very first Metroid, presented with the love and polish it always deserved. While certain areas carry with them a sense of familiarity, every pixel has been masterfully reworked. Zero Mission sports an almost comic book looking art style that is entirely unique to this entry in the series. The bold visuals hold up fantastically, whether being played on a Game Boy Micro or the Wii U Virtual Console. As of recording, Metroid Zero Mission is the most recent 2D Metroid we've had the pleasure of experiencing. While more recent entries in the series have all provided us with solid gaming experiences, some even catching us off guard with their unexpected quality, it has been over 10 years now since we've played a traditional 2D Metroid title. But perhaps Nintendo just needs plenty of time to come up with something even better than Metroid Zero Mission, which we hold as the best Metroid game of all time. But what do you think?
No objections.
Surprised that Metroid Prime Pinball didn't make the top spot, or perhaps you think that Prime 2 got cheated out of a spot? Maybe you think Fusion is the best 2D Metroid. Maybe you're an absolute crazy person like me who would have dared to put Federation Force or Hunters on this list. Whatever the case, we're all Metroid fans here, so share your list in the comments, regardless of how crazy it is. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to indicate your opinion with a properly oriented thumb, and if you're new to our channel, consider subscribing. We post tons of Nintendo-centric content from lists like this to the latest news, rants on game design, exclusive gameplay of new, upcoming, and even classic games, and looks behind the scenes at Nintendo. This is pretty much the perfect place to hang out if you're a Nintendo fan. If you enjoy what we do here, you can also support us on Patreon, where you can vote on lists like this and get early access to content as well as exclusive bonuses like game nights with me and other members of the NWR staff. Once again, my name's John Raridan, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.